Noting papers allow the DSB to raise issues for informal consultation, distinct from the formal consultation process via decision proposals. This is a summary of Noting Paper 308. Noting Paper 308 outlines a more formal approach to how the DSB categorises and publishes standards at different levels. The standard category labels proposed are experimental, draft, candidate, and binding. Experimental standards are transient and volatile. They will be removed eventually and are subject to frequent change. They are used for research and consultation only. Experimental standards can change without a decision of the Data Standards Chair and without issuing a CDS version change. Experimental standards are published separately to the Consumer Data Standards website. Draft standards are not enforceable. They are volatile, subject to frequent change. A draft standard may progress to candidate or binding status. A new draft standard requires consultation with the Chair. Draft standards can change without a decision of the Chair. A change in a draft standard requires a CDS patch version change. Draft standards are published on a sub-page of the CDS website. Candidate standards are considered stable but are not enforceable. A candidate standard may progress to binding status. Candidate standards can be changed without a decision of the Chair. A change in a candidate standard requires either a CDS minor version change or a patch version change. Candidate standards are published on a sub-page of the CDS website. Binding standards are stable and enforceable under the CDR rules. A standard can become binding only by a decision of the Data Standards Chair. Any material change to a binding standard requires a decision of the Data Standards Chair. A non-material change, such as an error correction or a clarification, may be made by the DSB using standard transparent DSB processes. Binding standards are published on the primary page of the Consumer Data Standards. A material change to a binding standard results in a major or minor version change of the Consumer Data Standards. A non-material change to a binding standard results in a patch version change of the Consumer Data Standards. As an example, the energy standards were published according to the approach described. The CDS archives show how standards move through the categories of maturity. In CDS version 1.12, the draft energy standards were linked as a subpage, Draft Energy Standards. In CDS version 1.14, candidate energy standards were published on the main page, but a note indicated they were not binding. In CDS version 1.15, the energy standards became binding and the blue information note has been removed. The DSB is open to feedback on this approach. If you have an interest in these questions and topics, read NP 308 for additional detail. To provide your input in response to these questions, add your comments to NP 308. Thank you for participating in the Consumer Data Standards.